Welcome everybody to Catfish Weekly. Along with Chuck Davison, I'm Lyle Stokes, and tonight we're not going to mess around and finding out how the weather is down Chuck's way. We're going to get right to it. We have Doc Lange on the show tonight, and thank you, Doc, for joining us. It is a privilege. We've been trying to get you on here since the beginning of Catfish Weekly.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're pretty excited. Aren't you excited, Chuck?
Oh yeah, I've been waiting on this since episode 1.
Well, you know, we was talking earlier, and for most of us that need a place to go to find out information, Doc's website that he's had for years and years and years is kind of the go-to place if you need answers and stuff like that. And he's just so knowledgeable and so willing to help people. And tonight we're going to see and hear some stuff that will help the beginning guys, the bank guys, the guys that fish tournaments. It's just going to be a really good deal for everybody. So if you're ready with some stuff, let's just get going.
Okay, Lyle, if I get kicked off here, just take over. I've got real bad storms coming over, so.
Well, believe me, I got plenty to go with, but I'll let you get your stuff going.
I'm ready. All right, how you doing, Doc? You wanna let's talk about some flatheads. How about that?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite fish right there, flatheads. I fished for them from since the time I was like 8 years old with my grandfather. So
All
we
right,
did it from boat and. You know, but we only night fished. We never day fished. Now it's a little bit different.
Oh, so y'all didn't. So when you was younger, you didn't have to learn to target them during the day. Y'all just concentrated on target them at nighttime.
Yeah, we always target them at night. And you know, no electronics. He taught me how to read the river without electronics. And you know, a lot of people say, "Well, you can't do it," but I've taught people how to read the river when you're looking at the water, how to read the river without electronics. Generally, when the river's up and high, your electronics aren't going to do you any good anyway, because you know you got to be able to see things that are happening on the water and what's going on. You know, because there's seams that are created. Just like you see at the dams.
Right, you know, like Earnhardt sees air. You know, that's how the old timers were when I would go out with them. You know, current seams. You know, paying very close attention to those, and the landscape around you. You know, the draws, the shadows. You know, where creeks come in, small creeks, even if it's runoff or whatever, and they paid more attention to the bank and what was going on over there than they were, you know, looking at the water. Tell us, you know, what got you so pumped up about flatheads as a kid? You know, did you catch some big ones that really got you hooked, or just going out and you know repetitively catching them and the fight of the fish?
Just probably just catching a lot. Back then, I was only 8 years old. I'm getting ready to turn 63, so I've been fishing for catfish for about 54 years. And you know, when I fished with my grandfather, it was one of them things. You know, I learned to respect what he told me and what he was teaching me. And, you know, for an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, you know, when he said, be quiet, it's hard to be quiet when you're that young. But, you know, I learned real quick, you know, if I listen to what he's telling me, I'll catch the fish. You know, you had to be quiet, couldn't make no noise. You dropped a sinker, and a lot of times he about snatched me up and throw me over the side. And, you know, I just learned to listen to what he was saying. You know, he said most of the fish run on them outside banks. Very seldom do you see them on the inside, but most of the time it's on the outside. He kind of taught me anytime there's a big riprap bank that the water along the rocks actually runs slower than the water that's out in the main current, because that water is hitting those rocks and it's actually rolling it around into a circle, which acts like a dam. It slows the water down. So a lot of times when I'm out fishing for flatheads, I'm working the banks, and you know, I'm looking for that big chunky riprap type rock that you see along, you know, on outside turns, even on straight runs down through there. And them flatheads, they'll pack up underneath them rocks. Years ago, Lynn and I would be fishing on the Ohio River, and she literally had me up against the banks with the boat, and she'd just sit there and pull flatheads one right after. A couple times she threw the baits up on the rocks. She'd overshoot because we'd fish some of it. We'd fish at night, and she'd catch. The bait would hit up on the rocks, and then she'd drag it off, and boom, she'd bust a flathead that is just up against that rock, you know, staying out of that super fast current.
Great. Speaking of bouncing bait off of rocks, what's your favorite go-to bait on these live baits that you use on these flatheads?
Hey, wait a minute, Doc. Don't be giving any secrets out until we're done fishing that tournament. No more secrets. You keep it all for us.
Want to wait till we get past the Mississippi, huh?
That's right. You betcha.
No. Probably my favorite, when I'm using live bait, I really like using shad. I like using live bluegills too. In the springtime, though, I really like shad, and I like dead shad on flatheads. Those guys are coming out of their hibernation, and you get a big shad, and I call them sumo shad, but I'm not afraid to take a shad that's 14, 15 inches long, cut his tail off, and heave him out there behind the boat, and they'll eat them up.
Have you ever tried to use some of these fish that are very hard to keep alive, like you know, skipjack, stuff like that? Tried to keep them alive and use them live?
No, because I live too far from the river, and generally when I'm out there, the skipjacks aren't running. So if I'm using skipjack, I'm using frozen skipjack that I thaw out, and you know, I thaw it real slow. But I take my skipjack and I'll stuff it down in ice water, so it's you know, real slow thaw out. I don't want the tissues getting all soft and everything. I want that meat to stay nice and tight, and I want that blood to stay in that fish until I go to cut it.
Okay. When you use the skipjack for flatheads, what's your favorite cuts to use to you know, produce a lot of scent and to get that the vibration you need to, you know, to attract the flathead?
The head portion, and I try to get the biggest skipjacks I can for those. 2-3 pound skipjack, and I'll cut him about maybe 1 to 2 inches behind the gill plates, so that the lungs are still intact right there. And then I always hook them from the bottom of the jaw out through the top of their nostril. Generally, I'll go ahead and put a stinger on the back side, just in case I get a short striking fish. Generally, a flathead will just come up, he'll inhale it, but I've had them where in the spring of the year they're real touchy when they go after the baits. They won't ease a rod down. They'll just sit there and they'll just take that rod and just do one of these. It goes down and then it comes back up, and it goes down and it comes back up. I really wish during those times I had a camera so I could figure out what they're doing. And sometimes, you know, because sometimes I'll push it and I think they've got the bait, and they're just sitting there. I don't know if they're sitting down there sucking on the end of it, and they just don't have the hook quite in. So, you know, using that second hook on the back of the bait is probably one of the best tips I can give people. You know, if they short strike it, at least you're going to hook them up.
Okay. On your other parts, do you just cut steaks, or do you do any kind of butterfly type fillets that flutter in the water, or anything like that, or you just put it out there just for scent?
Mainly for scent. You know, I'll chunk that head up and one big chunk, and then I go about 1 inch fillets, 1 to 2 inches wide, like that. And I always make sure that I use 8/0, 10/0 owner circle hooks, and I make sure that that hook goes in under the spine and out the back side. That way it hangs on to it.
Okay. Well, when you're transporting your live bait, your shad and your bluegills out to your bank spot, or you're carrying them around in the boat, tell us a little bit about the bait tank systems that you use to keep these things at their best.
Okay, right now I own a 2009 CR ProCat 240. I took the front live well and I converted it. They make it's a round like a holding tank, but it's round for shad. I made a filtering system out of PVC, and it sits inside that tank. I catch the shad right on the river and put them right in that tank, and that filter keeps them all clean, keeps them good and alive. And I also put a lot of salt. I add a lot of salt to that water, real heavy salt, uh, because I noticed that when I take them out and I hook them and I put them in the water, in the fresh water, it makes them go crazy. They sit there and twitch and they dance and they just go nuts on the bottom, and you know that helps to attract a flathead there.
Does that help with your bluegills also?
Yep, yep. I use it
Right.
on the bluegills too. I
So
mean, it doesn't
anything.
seem. I mean, they seem to have no problems in that real salty brine.
Cool. So any kind of fish I would catch, like suckers, or um, carp, anything like that that I wanted to take out and make a big presentation with, a salt brine would be just fine for them most of the time.
Now, I've never tried it with suckers and all that. They're not we've got some here, but they're not big enough to my liking. Um, I've heard people use bullheads. I don't like using bullheads. I don't think they've got enough action. I mean, every time I've used a bullhead, they just sit on the bottom and they don't do nothing.
What other fish do y'all have that's legal up there? Can y'all use crappie, anything like that?
We don't know. I assume that if you can catch it on a line, you're allowed to use it. But I try to catch my fresh bait right either there, or I go out to my local lake with a cast net and get it there, and then take that to the river.
Straight on the way, so they're the freshest.
Yeah.
Do you ever try to keep any fresh bait at home week after week, so you'll have it ready whenever you're ready to go?
No, no. I live 2 hours from the river, so it really doesn't do me any good. It's
Okay.
easier for me to get down there on the river and find my bait. The side imaging really makes a big difference. I can find bait fairly quick using that new technology, and go in a creek and see some pods of them, and just my stuff's right on the back of the boat, and I know how far they are away because I'm running a Lowrance, and I can when I see a school of bait, I can drop hash mark on that school, and it'll tell me how far away that school is from the back of my boat.
Great. Yeah, I bet that comes in real handy. I bet mine could do the same thing. I just need to figure out how to use it.
Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, just come on. You can put a waypoint right on it, and then you can turn the boat around, and it'll follow right there, and it'll tell you how far away they are.
Yeah, I've been using that with the Humminbird on marking spots and doing precision anchoring, and I'll know exactly how far I am away from the structure, so I can fan
Yeah.
my rods correctly. So it's probably about the same thing, except you're marking in the water column, except on the structure itself.
Right, right.
Okay. So tell us about your what type of rod and reels you favor when you're going out chasing these things.
The rods I use are all Lyle's Black Horse custom rods. I don't know what, 18 years ago, Lyle. How long ago was
It's been a long time.
it? Long time. He sent me an email, and he says, "I want you to try this rod." And I think I turned him down a couple of times because I really didn't know who the guy was. And at that time, a lot of people were asking me to try different things, and they wanted me to try their stuff, and I just didn't want to do it. I'm real particular about what I have. So Lyle kept sending me those emails, and finally I said, "Okay, send me what you got." Well, he sent me the rod, and it had EVA grips, and I don't like EVA grips, but he said, "Okay." He said, "Is that the only thing you don't like about it?" I said, "Yep, that's about the only thing I don't like about it." I said, "I like the tip is fast, the backbone's good, and then that is one of my favorite rods. It's 8 foot long. It's got a heavy backbone on it, real fast tip. I like real fast tips on the rods, and the only thing I just didn't like about it was the EVA grip. But I caught a lot of flatheads off that rod. I use 7,000 Abu Garcias. Most of what I've got are I've got 2 that are my favorites for flatheads, and those are the old lever drag reels. I think they're complete. You can't even get that kind anymore. I like those for flatheads because you can just push that lever up and down. You don't have to turn that star to try to get them. Because if they get near the boat, they're going to take one of them power dives going down. So I can immediately just reach up there, pull that lever back, and let them just go. And I always just let them go. I don't try to stop them. If they want to make a super run, I let them go. And a lot of times they will swim right into the nearest tree. And when they get in a tree, I've got a little trick that I've been doing for years. So I'm going to give this tip out to everybody, and it'll probably come back to haunt me at some time. But what I do is when a fish takes a rod, takes a bait, and runs into a tree, they go straight into the tree and they hang you up. I use 40-pound monofilament big game line with about a 50-pound big game leader, about, I don't know, 18, 20 inches long. And when a fish runs into a tree, he just goes in and he never turns around. He's always, just stuffs his head into the tree and he's got you hung. What I'll do is I'll take that rod and I will put it back into my rod holder. I'll push the drag up on that lever and I'll crank that rod down to where it's got a big bow and just leave it sit. Now what you're going to do is we're going to have a little tug of war contest going on. Eventually he's going to get tired of that hook sitting there pulling on him along with that line. Now because mono stretches, he can stretch it out all he wants to, and eventually he'll back out. And when he does, that rod comes up As soon as I see that rod start moving, I start cranking.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than sitting there with it in your hand for about 15 minutes waiting on him to run out.
Yeah, I'm sitting there trying to pull, and you don't want him to break off. In
Right.
2007 in a Duracats tournament, I caught a 56-pounder, and he run me into a tree, and I did that very same thing. Put it on there and waited and waited and waited, and finally got him out of there, and ended up putting him in the boat. But that was a phenomenal day on the water for me that year.
Okay, so we know what your favorite fish is. We know what baits you use, what tackle you use, how you transport them. Now let's hear some of your best tactics. How you get them things to commit and take that bait most of the time.
A lot of times, along the banks, I'll throw baits right into the trees, dead into the trees. I know I'm going to get hung up, but hopefully a big one will pick it up, and he'll move out of the tree, and he'll snap limbs off and everything else getting out of there. I like picking on rock piles that I find on the bottom, because a lot of times those flatheads like to sit behind them, and I don't think they're sitting back there to get in a current break, because my favorite time of catching flatheads is when the river is blowed out of the bank. I've always done real good, and I'm trying to find spots where I know that they can be kind of sitting waiting on stuff, and I just anchor up above them. I have a Rodan trolling motor. I haven't dropped an anchor in probably 3 years, because this trolling motor, I just drop it down there and set it, and I can adjust it to where I can move 5 feet to the right, left, forward, backwards. So, if I don't get my anchor point correctly, I just bump that trolling motor over, and it shifts it right over. And I fish all day like that. So now I'm not jerking that line up and, pulling that heavy anchor up. And then I use my electronics, to adjust the boat where, I need to be.
Great. You said you had some things to show us on that you use when you're making your presentations.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. One is this is a pool noodle, and I build these on it. You see it there? Okay. And I make these, and all it is a pool noodle. And what I do is I float baits using this type of a rig. A lot of times, most times everybody says that the flatheads, blues, are hanging near the bottom, but there are times when they're way up in the water column. I've caught flatheads that are just below the surface of the water. Using this little deal here, I'll take an 8-ounce egg sinker, put underneath that. That way it floats straight up, and I'll put a live bait underneath of it. Maybe put it down 5, 6 feet below this water, and this big pool noodle will hold 8, 10 ounces with no problem, and a live bluegill, live shad, and I'll just let it string out behind the boat. I'll do that a lot of times when I'm drifting, trying, with fish. This will pick up those ones that are in the column, because, a lot of times when you go over top of them, they scatter. So this little trick here will allow you to catch those ones that are running midstream. Another trick that I use is I take this one off of the walleye guys, and that's a board, a side planer board. And a lot of times when you're in a heavy current, you throw your lines out, and maybe you have 4 lines. Here in Ohio, we're only allowed to use 2 rods per person, so the most that we have on board a boat is 4. But the outside lines have a tendency, I like to fish my outside lines, I like to fish straight away, 90 degrees from the boat. Well, you throw one out 90 degrees in a heavy current, and it ends up tangled up behind all the, with the other lines. You snap this planer board on there, it will keep that outside line out there all the time. And that's why I use this Mr. Walleye board, because it's got this heavy, you can snap that heavy line in there. It's got this quick release, and they'll bury this board, and then it snaps off and comes right back to the boat. And then I just untangle and take it off, and, fight the fish then.
Now, with that planer board, Doc, you could use that if you was on the bank or in a boat, either one, couldn't you?
Yeah, either one. Even for the bank guys, if they see a piece of structure, a tree, and they're want to get their bait there, and the current's real heavy, they can just throw that on there, and you can just sit there and guide it. If you don't like where it's at, just pull up on it. It'll bury the board, but then the board will come back up as soon as the bait hits the bottom.
Now, on your pool noodle, it'll be the same way. How castable are those?
Oh, you can sling them things a country mile.
So for the old boy that's sitting on the bank and he wants to get out there and he thinks he's in a narrow body of water and he thinks that he needs to be fishing on the other side, he could actually throw that up stream and let it float all the way down the other bank if he wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Because I ran the ends here are all tapered. That way there's no resistance when I bring it back. So, and I don't, it's probably been 18 years I've been using this kind of stuff.
Do you run anything through the center of it?
Yeah, there's a straw in there. I just use an ordinary straw. Yeah, you get it in, and I just glue it together.
Do you put a bobber stop on your line above it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Or you can a lot of times I'll fish with them, let them go on the bottom, and then this will sit here, just right on the water like that. The one thing I like about this is this is like Jaws. When this thing is sitting upright like that, remember in the Jaws movie where he buries the barrel and the water's rushing over top of it? That's exactly what this pool noodle will do. It's really cool watching it race across the water with the water pouring over the top of it.
Awesome.
And I fish around stumps and stuff with that, where you don't want to get hung up on stuff. If you're fishing lakes, stuff like that, that bobber setup is excellent for going around there, because you can just keep moving it and send it on by your stump and then just drag it back to it.
And that's a cheap tip. I mean, you could go buy that stuff at Walmart or something for a little or nothing and make you a bunch of them things. So if you lose one, you got a spare or two.
Yeah, but I mean, I've still got all the original ones that I've got. I've got 2 of these still mounted on E-Cats, which were sold by Jim Moyer. Oh Lord, years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago. Right.
That's awesome. Great tips, guys. There you go for some really good tips that'll help you catch more fish. I knew we'd get some out of Doc.
Yeah, it'll probably come back and haunt me at a tournament. Somebody will.
It'll be all right.
That's okay. I've been fishing tournaments for. I was looking at it the other day. I've been fishing tournaments for 22 years. I started in 1994 and was fishing with my son. And in 99, he bought him a boat. In 99 is when I asked Lynn to start fishing with me. And she's been fishing with me ever since. And then last year, she asked me, she goes, a lot of the places don't have docks and stuff where we launched from, and she just asked me. She goes, you know, get you another partner. So I've got Daniel Vance, who lives right here in Springfield with me. He is my current partner, and a young guy that is he's got as much gun ho as I can stand. Boy, I mean, he knows how to fish for catfish, and he just absorbing everything I'm giving him, and we have a great time on the water together. Lynn, she'll go ahead and fish a few with me, but I mean, Daniel will be my main partner from here on out.
What's your next biggest event you're looking forward to?
Daniel and I are going to the Tennessee River and fish in the Cabela's tournament in Kingston, Tennessee. We fished that last year. That was his first tournament he'd ever fished, first major tournament he ever fished in his life. And we found out some things last year that, you know, I'm always thinking outside the box. Now, that's one tip I'm not going to share, but we found a way to come back. I think in day one we were in 14th place, and we ended up in 8th or 9th in the tournament on trying things out of the box. Daniel come up with a couple of good ideas, and then we tried those. He lost a couple of huge fish. It wasn't his fault. I don't know why they came off, but they did. That, yeah. And I think he got excited, but I get as excited as he does. It doesn't matter. I still get excited every time the rod goes down.
Yeah, that is a great area to fish up there. Matter of fact, I'm planning on trying to get my brother up there on the weekend of March 5th. I've been eyeballing, you know, there's a nice horseshoe in the river, and there's two main rivers, the Emory. You know, they're feeding right into the Tennessee River right there in that upper horseshoe. So, you know, I think we're still on to get up there the 1st of March, the weekend after the conference. We're going to try to get up there, but if we don't, we're just going to fish Wheeler and try to get up there another time. But that is the main place on my bucket list to hit.
Yeah.
Just because I've sat back and I've looked at the Tennessee River just like it was a river running through a couple of cities, okay? And I said, where would be some spots? Where would be my favorite spot I would want to fish on this river if I could drive up and down it in a couple of hours? And that horseshoe just jumped out at me with those main rivers running in.
Right.
So I've got it on my list just to go fishing just because it caught my eye.
Yeah. And in September, I'm fishing with Lyle and Cindy in Memphis, and I am really looking forward to that.
We are going to have so much fun down there. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. We may not catch no fish, but we're going to have a good time.
We are going to have a good time.
Oh man, that's going to be a unbelievable tournament. What do you think about where tournaments are, you know, starting to become? I know you've seen big tournaments, you know, in your time, because I've heard back in the, you know, earlier mid 2000s there was some, you know, 200 boat tournaments back then. But, you know, one of these qualities where, you know, the interest fees this big and you got such a center stage like the, you know, the big Bass Pro Shop and all that.
Yeah. You know, like I was back in '94, we were fishing the U.S. Cats tournament, and back then, you know, it wasn't nothing to see 80 boats at a tournament. And most of the guys, you know, I fished with James Patterson and Harold Dodd. Those guys, they've been around a long time. And those guys really taught me how to fish a river, because a lot of times after I'd get my butt kicked by them, I'd go up and, you know, I'd start asking questions. Hey, you know, I'd say, what are you looking at? You know, how are you fishing this? And, you know, those guys, they would tell you. you know, what they were doing, and I was real close. I just, you know, wasn't right there. So now I don't do bad. You know, the weather affects me a lot as I've gotten older. Um, yeah, Lyle, you better hope that there's not a lightning storm when we're fishing the Mississippi, because I'll be stepping off of that boat real quick. I don't. Adverse weather really bothers me. It knocks me off my game plan, which is, you know, you like to stay on your. Usually, I have a what I'm going to do come game time, and a lot of times, you know, that'll knock me off. Just adverse weather really bothers me.
Yeah, you know, a couple of years ago at Marshall's, Ohio, when I was in the room above you, and I didn't see y'all for one whole day, and I said, "Where'd y'all go?" You know, and y'all drove to Cumberland City to get some fresh skips. Is that stuff that you've done quite a bit? You know, last minute, hey, we're gonna go try to get some primo bait and go for it.
Yeah, I do that a lot. Man,
Do
I'd
you?
hate to see all the money I spent. And a lot of, you know, a lot of times, you know, I'll get a tip that somebody says, "Hey, the skipjacks are here," and I'll drive hundreds of miles to get skipjack, and maybe only coming back with a dozen. I hate doing that, but you know, it happens.
I mean, a dozen fresh skipjack can, you know, be enough to make the big difference, though.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Other than I gotta have 20 or 30 during a tournament because I like to use them. You know, I like keeping fresh bait in there. 12
Oh
don't
yeah.
last very long.
Oh yeah, but you know, if you just had enough for half a day, would you divide them out and use everything you had on half of the poles all day and use something else on the other ones, or would you just go ahead and use them all up at once and
I
then?
just start using them up. You know, I'm constantly changing baits out. When the water temperatures get up, usually what I do is when the water temperature's in 70, 80 degrees, I leave a bait. No, 15 minutes, I'm changing it out. Now, in the last couple of years, the one thing I'm not doing is I'm not tossing the bait back into the water. I used to do that. You know, I'm just chilling. I'm trying to catch fish, and when I
Not feed
toss
them.
that head back in the water, you know, I just chummed a fish that I possibly could have gotten. You know, at some point they're going to sit there and they're going to find that head I tossed out. You know, so and I'm a run and gun type fisherman. I don't stay very long in a spot. I'm 20 minutes or so, and if I catch a big flathead, I immediately pull up and go someplace else because I figure he's the big dog in there. He is not going to allow anybody even come near him. So, you know, why stay there and fish when I've gotten, you know, the big man out of the, you know, that hole, and I start moving, you know, around. Back in 2007, Lynn and we pulled up on a spot, and I dropped a bait, and we sat there for half an hour, and I started to pull up, and Lynn goes, "Give it 5 more minutes." I have learned to listen to her intuition. You know, when she speaks and tells me give it 5 more minutes, I'm listening. You know, it took me a while to learn that. Within that 5 minutes, that 56-pounder hit, and we got him on board the boat. And I was pretty wore out because he took me everywhere. And I didn't care if I caught another fish. And that was at this tournament started at 7 o'clock. We had that 56 in the boat at 7:45, and we moved to another spot and didn't we caught a couple of small flatheads, and then I wanted to go right back up in that area, and she said, you know, you never go back to the same hole. And I said, I'm not going back to the same hole. I saw a tree down there. I ended up catching a 50-pounder off of that. So within, you know, 8:30, I had 100 pounds in the boat, and I was pretty wore out. Well, then I ended up, I caught a 38-pounder, at another spot, and I missed him twice. He ripped the skipjack head off two times in a row, and ended up getting him with the third skipjack head. And that's why I'm saying I gotta have plenty of skipjack heads, because I can go through them real quick. I'm pretty insistent. If a fish steals one, I'm getting it back from him.
Yeah.
So, but that day we ended up with 184 pounds, and all Lynn was doing was netting my fish. She never had a rod go down. So that was a phenomenal day on the water.
Great. Yeah. And when you have a live well that you can have total confidence in, and you don't have to worry about babysitting fish all day, you just know in the back of your mind they're being taken care of, so
Right.
you can fish the rest of the day and not have to worry about checking on them and changing water and everything.
Yeah. Well, I change the water quite a bit on my tank. I've got a 125 gallon drop-in truck, tank, and I run water. It's plumbed right into the system on my boat. I can run water constantly through it, and I'm pumping it out. I'll change the water 2-3 times during a session. I've got Steve Douglas's Aqua Lung on there. I've had it. He sent me the first prototype, I think, that he ever had built, and wanted me to try it out, and I've used it. I've made some modifications to it to make it better, and I've been using that ever since. And generally, when we go bring in fish out of the live well, they're really smacking you good, because I've got 4 air stones in the bottom of that live well to keep those fish going. So.
Yeah, when I was talking about changing the water out, I was talking about using buckets. We had to do that a few days, and that really stinks. When you got the pumps to pump out and pump back in, that's not changing the water to me. Changing the water is when you got the bucket, and you're saying, okay.
And a lot of people will ask me, how can you tell if your fish are in distress? What I tell people, look at their eyes. It doesn't matter if it's a channel, a flathead, or a blue. When you look at their eyes ought to be real crystal clear looking. If they start getting cloudy looking, or like they're covered over with a cataract type, that fish is in trouble. One of the things I tell a lot of people is open up that live well, get that air exchange, because while they're sitting in that live well, a lot of times, they're puking up stuff. There's a lot of ammonia that's being generated inside that live well. Ammonia seeks out water. So when you open the lid and let it kind of air out every now and then, we are always checking on our fish, but open that lid up, and then let that ammonia get out of there, and your fish will do a lot better. I don't have a real heavy current in there. It's just kind of nice and gentle, but when we pop open the lid, they're always over there where that discharge is on that Aqua Lung.
So on your big live well, do you run any kind of oxygen in the diffusers or anything like that? Is that
I got 4 air stones in the big round air stones in the bottom, and in the back of the boat I've got the air bubble, 2 air bubble pumps running all the time, and I don't use any oxygen. Over all the years that we've been fishing, I think maybe we've only lost 1 fish in the well, and it wasn't very big to begin with. Before I'll kill a fish, we'll go ahead and take that fish out of the live well, put him back into the river. It's not worth losing a fish. It takes too many years to get these fish this big anyway. So
yeah, so if you use regular air with a bubbler or oxygen, as long as you produce a lots of very fine bubbles to mix with the
Yes.
water, you should be good. Big bubbles are no good.
No, big bubbles will not hold that concentration. The finer you can get, the better it is. And keep your live wells, good and clean, stuff like that. If you start seeing a lot of stuff floating around, and they get dirty. I mean, it just depends. You know, Flatheads aren't so bad of regurgitating stuff, but boy, them blues, they just like to. It just seems like they want to empty their bellies out all the time.
Great. All right, Lyle. You ready for him? Because I'm gonna take all the time up.
Well, it's okay. I'm not sure if Doc's in a big rush or not. I don't think anybody else is in a hurry to see him leave. But
No
we
hurry.
got some questions in our chat. Doug Evans would like to know if you drift for flatheads.
Yeah, well, I try to drift for flatheads. Did I catch one, Lynn? Yeah, we've caught them drifting. I don't catch very many drifting. Um, Mainly, I catch more blues drifting than I do flatheads.
Right. That's kind of the general thing. Brad Bex wants to know if you've heard anything about the new catfish rules in Indiana.
Now, I've been kind of following it. It sounds like they're following right along with the rest of the states, I believe, Kentucky and all them. So,
Jerry Dillard would like to know if you have done any dragging baits in lakes with no current on those plant pipes.
yep. Daniel and I fish a lot of channel cat tournaments, and we have really. I've learned to do the dragging method. I got a little bit different setup than what a lot of people see. Daniel taught me a few things that he had learned. He likes to crappie fish, but he came up with some really good ideas that after I looked at what he was doing and what I was doing, because a lot of times when we're out there fishing, he'll catch 10-to-1 fish on me, and I'm sitting there going, how is he doing this? So we'll sit there and start comparing things, and we found out a few things that he was doing that I wasn't. So we kind of changed it around. I know the 3 tournaments that we fished together, Daniel's caught, I think in 2 of the tournaments he's had the biggest fish in the tournament.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's learning quick.
Heck yeah. Scott Woody would like to know if you use a 1-hook or a double hook rig on your bobber rig.
I'll use, well, that's one thing I forgot to mention. I always have, I use mostly 2 hooks, and on the bobber rig, I'll use the 2 hooks, but I'll have one of those co-mill hooks in between it, in between the two hooks to keep that bait up.
I think Chuck must have something going on up there. Let's see if I can get to the next question. Ricky Poole's wondering if you still fish with Donnie Hall.
With who? Donnie Hall?
Donnie Hall.
No. He probably wanting, is it Donnie Hall or Donnie Shootman?
What he has down here is Donnie Hall, but I don't know.
I don't remember.
Okay. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about a little bit was the information on your website, and we can go to hookedoncatfish.com to see this, but you have just an abundance of information on that website, It's unbelievable. For years and years, we've been going to this thing, and you don't even have to ask questions. You can find them on there.
Yeah, I like to write, and I like to give out a lot of information, things that I've learned over the years, things that people have taught me over the years. Hooked on Catfish has been on the World Wide Web for 18 years. I had a crash on my computer last year. I've got the information is on my new one, and I haven't figured out how to access it. So that's the reason I haven't updated anything on my website, is because I haven't figured out how to get in there and do anything. Because on my old computer, I had a program, and I just go right in there and log in. Boom, I'm sitting there writing away. And now I haven't figured out how to get to it. So that's going to be one of the things that I want to try to get accomplished this year, is get my website back up there, because I like teaching people a lot about electronics and stuff like that, and I've done a lot of I get on the water with people and show them how to use their electronics, and I'm doing a lot of that right now with people. I get calls all the time from people wanting to know how to do this with electronic, how to do that with an electronics. So,
well, I'm excited as I fight that Lowrance a little bit. Doc, can you turn your volume down just a touch on
sure.
your computer? We're getting a little bit of feedback. I'm excited to have you in the boat with us down in Memphis to help me understand how that Lowrance works. I'm a Humminbird guy, and I've had a couple of guys help me out tremendously. Craig Shoemate went with Cindy and I the other day, and he was a great help. And Chris Jones got in the boat and he's down in Alabama, and that helped a great deal. But I'm excited because I know you're pretty up to speed with those things, and that'll be a big help to me. I mentioned on these shows several times that I get messages to answer that are not only in the chat, but I get statements, people sending me messages on Facebook and emails and all kinds of stuff, and I wanted to share one with you that Rob had sent me through Facebook, and he says, this guy is brilliant, outstanding guest, well done. However, it is BS that he will be in your boat in September. I actually think it's kind of funny because, since we started talking about this, I don't think that any of the three of us has ever said anything about how many fish we're going to catch. We're just going to have fun.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. Yeah, we're going to enjoy ourselves. I like fishing on the Mississippi River. First time I did it was back in 2007, and I was just amazed watching Dale Kearns throwing 40 and 50-pound fish back because they were over the slot limit. He already had 270s on board the boat, and he's trying to catch small fish. And I just phenomenal watching him wear out fish.
Oh, I know. Dale is amazing talent. He really is, and he's a super guy. And I've talked to him about being on Catfish Weekly, and we have several shows lined up, but I'm going to get a hold of Dale, and I think he'll make an outstanding guest on the show. He'll be a lot of fun. He's very laid back, but the knowledge, he's like you, the knowledge that he can share with us is outstanding. Nick Goodall would like to know if you use the Genesis on your sonar.
Yes, I do. I record every time I'm out, and then I upload it, and then I've got the lakes around the house here. I've got those all in my system, but it's a real handy tool for using on the river. Because a lot of times you won't see something as you're going along, but when you record it and then you do the playback, what's nice is if it looks real fishy looking, maybe a tree or something that comes up, you can drop a waypoint on it and boom, it's in your system, and you're not even on the water. You can do it right there. So
That is pretty handy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wanting to ask about what it was like for Lynn to be a state record holder for a while.
uh, well, that was kind of interesting. That was during a Cabela's tournament, and that was in 2009. The fish that she caught was a 29.75 pound blue cat, which, we catch a lot of 30-pound fish. So we didn't think anything about it. We went to the weigh-in, and actually I think we only caught 3 fish that day because we were struggling. And I was getting, the fish were up in the water column, and I couldn't catch them. And that's when, I started coming up with that bobber. I was dragging the bobber back behind the boat and found out that these fish were, they were moving away from the boat. And when Lynn's rod went down, I think the wind had pushed us up to about 2 miles an hour, and that fish just drilled that rod down. And her rods are real short. They're real short and compact. That's an interesting story because I think Lyle was about ready to cry every time he shortened the rod up. He had to cut the rod down to make it short enough for Lynn. She likes using a 6-foot rod. So when we went to the weigh-in, and we weighed it in, and then one of the people in the crowd said, "Hey, that's a new West Virginia state record." We're kind of looking at each other and saying, "What do you mean? No way, not at 29 pounds." And sure enough, a biologist came up and he confirmed that it was an actual blue, and he goes, "Yeah, that is a new state record." So we turned the paperwork in and everything, and then a couple of weeks later, she's got the certificate up on the. And I was more pumped up about it than what she is. It's just another fish.
Well, I'm telling you,
I thought it was pretty awesome. She caught that 88-pounder back in 2005. And when she caught that 88, nobody had ever seen a fish that big, in any of the tournaments, because this Kentucky state record was 104 by Bruce Midkiff, and she come in within 15 pounds of it. And it's phenomenal. I like the fact that I can put her on fish like that. That's probably more to me than anything, is the fact that a lot of people say it's got to kill you that your wife can outfish you, and I said no, it doesn't bother me at all. I said we enjoy it. We like being out on the water, and if she can catch. I might get a little upset if she caught a 100-pounder, because that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to catch, is that 100-pounder, that triple fish. What I've been really wanting to catch.
Well, I'll promise you, there was nobody any more excited about her catching that state record than me. I guarantee it. I was jumping around the house, acting like I didn't have any sense. I was so happy for her that she got that. It was so exciting. And you're talking about catching those fish like that. Something that comes to my mind back when they had the Catfish American TV show had first started. I'd done some sponsoring with them guys, and they called me up 4 o'clock in the morning. They caught an 86-pound blue on one of the rods that I built for them. This guy calls me up, old Don Sweet did, and he said, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know we caught this fish that weighs 86 pounds or whatever it was." And I said, "Don, do you have any idea what time it is?" He said, "Yeah, but didn't you want to know?" I said, "Yeah, but couldn't you wait a couple more hours?" But he was really excited, and I was too. We had a good time with it. But when Lynn caught that was very special to me that she caught that, and I was just happy for her. Ricky Poole would like to know if you're going to be at the Catfish Conference, Doc.
Yes, I am.
Excellent, excellent.
We're going to be down there on Friday and Saturday.
That'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We got
I'm
a lot of
looking
things
forward
going
to
on.
it.
Oh, me too. You know, and I know that you feel pretty much the way I do, that this is something that we all need to work very hard to get to bring this together for the benefit of the sport. And this is one way to do it. I mean, them guys, Steve and Jeff and Marine, them guys, they've all worked very hard to make this thing happen. And I think that it'll be a really beneficial thing for people to get the chance to go down there and be a part of it. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am. That's my weekend that I have to work, and I took vacation for it. So I plan on, I had a lot of people ask me if I was going to do a seminar, and I said, no, I want to go down and enjoy myself. I want to go down. I want to do one-on-ones with people. If they want to ask me questions, I'm more than willing to, help them. If it's electronics, it's, how to do a rig, that's what I want to do. I don't want to be up on stage and giving a talk, because when you look at it, most of those guys know what they're doing. They're looking for those little inside tips that can put them over top of their competition.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Everybody.
The last several seminars that we done, I would go to the places and do my little deal, and we'd go back to our booth. Of course, we always have a booth set up at most of them, and guys would come by, and I would have boxes of hooks, and I can't tell you how many different rigs that we'd talk about when we was doing the seminars. And I would tie those rigs up, and I'd give them to these people. And you'd think they'd give them a dollar bill or something,
Yeah.
They were just so happy, and they could, And I said, well, if you take it, if you forget how I done it, you can take it apart and figure out how to replicate it.
Yeah.
And I'd just take 2 or 3 boxes of hooks down there and tie them up and give them to people, and we have a great time doing those. Doug Evans would like to know if you use circle hooks for flatheads.
I use circle hooks for everything. 1999, I think, is when they came out. I was using Gamakatsus at the time. But after a couple of years, I think their quality department kind of went to the wayside, and we started getting broken hooks, or the tips were bent over. And now I'm either using Eagle Claws or I'm using Owners. I like Owners, are probably one of my favorite hooks. I snell everything. Everything that I do is all snelled using the no-knot snell, and I learned that from the saltwater guys, where you just put the line through, you roll it over about 7, 8 times, and then bring it back through that eye. And I'll do the double hooks same way. You put the first one on, then slide the second one, whatever length that you want to put it in between it, and then snell that one on too.
Yep, that's exactly how I do it. I've been using that snell for I can't tell you how long, and I don't have any problems with it. Some of the heavier braid line, it's hard to snug it up real tight and stretch it to where it'll stay in there real good, but I usually just put a long sleeve shirt on, wrap it around my arm or something, snug her down. You can also use pliers and stuff if you get way back off of it. But, I just don't have any problems with that, and it kind of works as a trigger effect when they hit it. So I think that's probably, it may not be the best snell knot out there, but it works for me, and I got confidence in it. So why would you ever change if you believe in something?
Right, and the more you pull on it, the tighter it gets.
That's correct.
It's not going to back off. It's going to stay tight, and that's what you want. Now, Larry Muse came up with a good tip. That one time he was interviewing with Steve Douglas, and I started tying it the way he did, because I used to do it where it would hang straight. Now it hangs on a kind of a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so, us old dogs, we can kind of confer back and forth different things that we keep trying. You're just trying to put fish in the boat. I love fishing. I've loved it my whole life, and I get kind of perturbed when the weather messes me up and I can't go out there and catch a fish that I want.
So when you're saying you want that triple digit, are you wanting the triple digit flathead or blue?
Either one. I'll take either one. So
If you had a week, a couple of times a year to go anywhere in the United States to try to catch that fish, where do you think you would plan your trip to go?
Kingston, Tennessee. I like that water right there. Boy, it was last year was the first time I'd ever fished there, and I told Daniel, I said, I said I got a feeling we can catch some good fish here. We went down below Watts Bar Dam. Everybody was saying that there wasn't no skipjacks went down there. Well, we went down there and we just wore them out. And I wasn't using the little crappie jigs. We were using a Foley spoon, and man, it was an absolute magnet for them things.
Oh yeah.
So, and like I say, we caught, I think we caught 20, 25. It was a bunch, and within 2 days of pre-fishing, we'd gotten rid of all those, and then we had to go get some more. Like the night before the tournament, we had to go get more bait.
Yeah.
I like using fresh, but I can use that frozen. I don't mind using frozen.
Did y'all stay in the Tennessee River, or did y'all go up the Emory or the Clinch any?
No, we were out on the main river of the Tennessee River.
Yeah, they said all those little where those rivers come in right there at the town of Kingston, where you got the canal between the two small rivers to the main hook.
Yeah.
They said all in there is just beautiful places to fish. All in that upward right hook. I mean upward horseshoe hook. Up in the Emory especially. I'm dying to go up into there because from what I heard, it's loaded with 40 and 50-pound flatheads. And,
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to get me I'd love to get me a 70 or 80 pounder. So that's going to be my focus.
That sounds like some good times. I've not ever fished that area, but we'll get down there one of these days and make it happen. Well, Doc, there's no way that I can explain what it means to Chuck and I to have you on here with us tonight. It's been an outstanding good time and a long time coming, and I know everybody was really excited about it. And Greg would like to know what boat you use.
Right now I'm in a 2009 Sea Arc Pro Cat 24-footer. It's got a 175 Suzuki motor on it. I opted to go with the smaller motor. They were coming with 225s because I like to make long runs and I wanted that gas mileage. Some of the guys that I have fished with for years had the 225s, and I knew that the 175 would swing the same props as the 225, but it was a lot easier on gas. And a lot of times I'll run 20 miles or so. When Lynn caught her 88, we ran 42 miles one way for that fish, and that's a long run.
Yeah, it is.
So I mainly wanted it for gas mileage. Lynn bought that boat for me. That's my retirement present. I don't know when I'm going to retire, but she bought and paid for that, and it's I got a wonderful wife. She knows I like to fish. She knew it the day I got married, and she has really supported me on that kind of stuff. I can't say enough about her. She just and she likes to fish and stuff like that. But I'm just crazy about getting out on the water. Even if I don't catch a fish, I just like being out on the water, and I like the boat, and I'm constantly doing something to it's a 2009, and I'm still modifying that thing to my likes.
Well, Lynn is quite the fisherman herself, and is there a chance that she'll fish tournaments with you again?
Oh yeah, she'll keep doing it, and she just she knows that she knows my passion for the fishing and stuff like that, and she just wanted to, with the entry fees getting higher and higher, and you stay in a room, it's a whole lot easier sharing it with somebody than footing the complete bill yourself.
That's very true. Very true. At this time, Doc, if you have any sponsors or anybody you'd like to thank or mention or talk about something else, I'll give you all the time you want and go ahead and do that. We're running about an hour and 10 minutes or so. Not that we're in any hurry or anything, but we'll give you a chance to do what you need to do.
No, I'm in no hurry. This is my night off, so I can sit here and talk forever. As far as sponsors, Black Horse Custom Rods, buddy, I've been with you a long time, and I love your rods. Lynn likes your rods. Man, we just don't fish with anything else but the Black Horses. And we don't use sponsors. The only sponsor I got is my wallet and my wife. That's our sponsor.
Well,
we pay for everything.
We go back to that just a little bit. When back years ago when I contacted you about that, I was building a lot of rods in those days, and I wasn't convinced. They suited me, but my question was, did they suit anybody else? And I never had complaints, but you needed somebody that was out fishing big tournaments and stuff consistently, and very few people knew about me except local people and guys that we fished against in tournaments in our area. And when I reached out to you, I was serious. I needed to know if they was as good as I thought they was, or if they worked as well as they did for me, if they worked for everybody else. And that was one of the reasons why I contacted you. And it was a little, I knew you didn't really want to do it, but I needed you or somebody like you, and I wanted Doc Lange in my rods about as bad as anything,
Yeah, I kind of realized that after, you kept sending me rods. I want you to try this one. I want you to try that one. And I told Lynn, I said, I think he's serious about wanting my opinion. And, I only use the kind of stuff that I am comfortable with. I won't use somebody's product just to say, and if it doesn't work, if it doesn't do the job that I want it to do, I won't use it.
Right.
If I didn't like your rods, I would have said, no, I think they're junk. They're not, I'm not going to use them just to, keep a sponsorship. That's not how I roll.
Well, I've got one that if I don't have to send it to the guy, I would like to bring it down to the conference and show you. In fact, it's this one right here spinning. That is the 2015 Twisted Cat Outdoor Angler of the Year winner, Jason Burgess' rod. Now, Jason won that rod, and he wanted to upgrade, so we just got done with it. And I put the last coat of finish on it today, and that bumping rod weighs 8.1 ounces.
Is that thing lighter than the one you built me?
Yes.
Wow. Man, I can't imagine.
And I don't think that Jason's going to be bumping for a few days. And if he wants it, I'm going to send it to him. But if I can bring that down to the conference, I'd like to bring it down there. Cindy was out here today, and I said, "Here, you need to check this out." And she said, "Oh my God!" And it's the lightest one that I've ever done, and I used some different materials to doing a few things on it, and it might be too light.
Wow.
It might be too light, but I sent him pictures of it today, and he seemed to like it, so I'm excited to get it to him. But we're going to have so much fun down at that conference, and maybe we can get Lynn to join in on our. We're going to do a live broadcast. Maybe get Lynn to jump in there with us for a little while down there.
Yeah, we can try it. We'll try it. We'll corral her and get her in there.
She's an outstanding lady, and you guys have done awfully well fishing tournaments over the years, and I do understand about the boat docks and things. We're careful about where we go and making sure that we have places that's easy and accessible to get Cindy in and out too. But you do have to do what you got to do. And have you got you a list made out for all the places you're going to go this year?
No, I just kind of, my shop is talking about changing our work schedule. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen. It's bad enough. Right now, all the tournaments fall on my work weekend. That's the problem I've got. It's like I said, oh, man, why couldn't they go the other way? Like now in March, I think Vince has got that tri-county catfish thing. Now, this is the first year that it fell on my off weekend, so I'm going to get it. I'm going to be able to fish that this year, and it's going out of Tanner's Creek, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth real well for flatheads and blues is down in that area, and I like fishing that area down there. Big river, a lot of barges going by, stuff like that. So I don't night fish hardly at all, except if I'm on a lake. I will fish on a lake at night, but I just don't do it on the river.
Right. Well, while you're talking about that, I want to bring up something that's come up today, that Kansas City Catfish has finalized the deal for their Brunswick tournament, which will be, I believe, August the 6th. And it is a night tournament, and it's on the Missouri River. And they started taking entries for that today, and I don't know how many he took today, but I know that they're into the second flight of boats. It's going to be released, and this is going to be a big tournament on a big river with big fish, and it's going to be a big deal. There'll be 100-plus boats there, I'm quite sure, and the payout's going to be really, really good. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. If anybody wants to come fish a big river, you better put your big boy panties on and come with a super anchor over there fishing at Missouri at night, because it won't do you no good if you don't have that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring when I fish the Mississippi with you, I'm bringing my anchor ball. So I'm not going to sit there and pull an anchor up for your boat. I'm going to teach you how to use that anchor ball. And we will pull that anchor up.
I'm anxious to see it, and I've heard a lot about them, and we have since both of us kind of had some issues, we went to the lightweight anchors, but that Monster Cat's a lot of boat, and I would probably feel a lot more comfortable with a bigger anchor than that 10-pounder, but so far, so good. I've had no issues with it. I mean, it holds just like it does my tracker, so very excited about that. There's another something I want to bring up. Chris Jones is having a seminar at the Independence Bass Pro Shop. It starts at 1:30 on February 20th. He wanted me to remind everybody it's a women's fishing workshop. So if you get a chance, jump on up there and see Chris. It'll be a good time. I have another one in here that Jerry Dillard sent me, if I can figure out how to get to it. Jerry, if you're still in there, open that chat back up and that message so I can make sure I get all these. It's, let me see. Central Texas Catfishing Trail is having a second tournament of the year Saturday on Navarro Mills Lake. Said it's a small lake, but a lot of big blues to be caught. So if you get a chance, you're in Central Texas, go down there and see Jerry and the guys and jump in there if you're looking for a place to fish. I'm pretty sure it'll be nice weather down there, and you guys will have a great time. So try to help them out and do what you can do to make them guys get in there and get on. We need to keep these tournaments going and everybody working together to try to get along and get past the animosity and make catfishing as great as Donald Trump's going to make our country. I mean, that's what we need to do, and as long as people keep working together, I think we'll make this happen.
Yep.
Chuck, you got anything else for Doc tonight?
No, I'm hoping we can kidnap him at the conference and keep him in our booth all day so I can talk to him all day. And, we'll just put a sign up saying, 10 minutes with Doc, $10, and put up a little booth for him to go in.
Well, Doc's going to be there. Vicky Messina's going to be there. I'm not sure about Jason yet. Depends on his work schedule. Heath Malone's going to be there. There's going to be a bunch of our guys that's down there, and they'll be able to answer questions and help you and I. Heath Malone, I'm not sure if Jason's coming or not. I haven't really heard, but Heath's going to be down there. And for you and I to get a break, Heath has agreed to do some of the interviews and help with the video stuff, and that'll be really good because, after a couple hours, and we want to get anybody that wants on there as long as we got time, we're going to try to run them through, and we'll try to do it 45 minutes to an hour at a time, and then we'll upload that to YouTube so people can watch it later, and we'll go again. But Heath is so cool to be there. Justin Wolf is going to be down there. If you guys don't know Justin Wolf, you need to meet him. He's a really cool guy. He run catfish tournaments for years and years and years, and catches some monster fish. I mean, 70s, 80s is just another day for Justin Wolf. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I'm not sure. I haven't heard if Jason Jackson's going to be there or not, but there's going to be a big crowd of people there, and we're going to have a really, really good time. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be the most fun we've had all winter, well, at least since Wheeler Blues on Wheeler.
Well, one thing I like about it, it's all devoted to catfishing.
That's exactly right.
That's what I am really looking forward to it. This has been a long time coming. I'm real appreciative of Steve Douglas and the Marine place. Jeff, what is the last name there? I can't.
Jeff Jones.
Jeff Jones, Marine, yeah. They're going to be showcasing some boats and that kind of stuff, and it's been coming a long time. Over the years, I've gone to a lot of fishing shows, and you get disappointed because the catfish is just definitely not represented. And this is one show where the catfish is going to be represented.
Well, it's sort of like going to a big outdoor show, and you go in there, and they got aisle and aisle and aisle of bass and crappie stuff, and nothing but 2 or 3 hooks and some sinkers for catfish guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But if somebody comes up to me down there and just says, hey, can you teach me how to tie that knot you were talking about on Catfish Weekly? I can just sit right there and just show them. Because when I pre-tie all my rigs, and everything is all packaged up in them worm bags and stuff like that, and I have arthritis in my hands real bad, so I take one day and I just tie up like 50 or 60 rigs, and that way I've got a couple of days to recover with my hands. My day job is I am a mechanic and at a pharmaceutical place, and so I can I'll go back to work and I can get the soreness back out of my hands when I'm sitting out there wrenching on a few things, but I'm hoping that people will really enjoy that conference. I think they've done a great job advertising it and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to it. They got top-notch guys that are giving seminars at this thing. I was asked to, but I want to go around and talk to people and just be one-on-one with somebody, especially if somebody new comes in and wants to know, what to do with their electronics, wants to know, how do you tie this rig, so, my knots that I'm still using, I'll do the swivel, the snell to my swivel and stuff like that, but then I'm using the old trilene knot. That's all I'm using with the monofilament. The one rod that Lyle built me, my bumping rod, is the only rod that I have braid on, because you want that feel when you're bumping that weight down back behind the boat, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to when I go on the Mississippi with Lyle. I'm using a real light weight, so I may only be bumping with 2 to 3 ounces. But that rod that he built me is just so, it telegraphs every little thing that's going on down there. So up here, the current doesn't run as heavy as it does on the Mississippi. So I've had a few fish that, I'll miss the bite where they pick the bait up and they're running up the river, and I don't pick up that. I'm still learning how to do that back bumping stuff. I'm getting better at it, but that's when it's out there, when the current's out there ripping, that's my best time. I like using that thing.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'll have rods, if I'm drifting, I'll have those rods still sitting out there, but I bring them up a little bit higher in the water column so they're not getting hung up. I've got 8 ounces of weight. I like to have my lines hanging straight down off the boat when I'm drifting.
That's right.
And I'm, on the drifting rigs, I'll use maybe a 2, even a 3-foot leader out behind. But I've always got them little cone mill bobbers on that bait, and just to get it so I can drag it through trees and the hook doesn't hang up on something. That cone mill bobber, I get them at bottom dwellers, and it'll drag right through a tree, and not get hung up. So
Justin Wolf says, "Crank down and hang on."
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what you do when you're drifting. Like he's 100% correct. That bumping is something that is, if they're working it, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I've got that Rodan trolling motor, which I can, man, it is just, I can control it, and it is perfect for going, when you find that seam that's in the river, when the current's up high, I can program that thing, and it'll stick right to that thing and allow the boat to just kind of slip on back right and stay right on that seam line.
Yep, that sounds like the deal. One of these days we'll get together. I'd like to see that Rodan. I've not ever been around one of them. I'm not sure you had it the last time I seen you, but I'm anxious to take a look at that. It's got to be a great product.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal. I bought it. It was in Florida. The guy that originally built them and stuff was an engineer for NASA, and it's got dual compasses in it. It's not like the Minn Kotas, because I've been with Rob Benningfield fishing, and he had the top of the line Minn Kota. Nothing against Minn Kota; they're a really good trolling motor. But when I hit that anchor lock, I don't want it to move. I don't want it to slip back and then move back up. And I know Rob and I were talking about his, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he said, "it moves back about 2, maybe 3 feet, and then it comes back up." Where my Rodan, if I put the nose of the boat up against a channel marker on the river, it will stay right there. It will not move, because I used it on the Mississippi, and the only thing I had to do on the Mississippi was I had to put the boat in gear at an idle, and then the Rodan would take over controlling the boat, and that's how we fished on the Mississippi.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Rob Clodfeller says the Rodan has a bidirectional motor, whereas Minn Kota has to turn the head.
What now?
Rob says the Rodan has a bidirectional motor, whereas the Minn Kota has to turn the head on the trolling motor.
Yeah, mine, it's got reverse and all that, so it, and the only thing I found out when I got underneath of a bridge, it goes berserko.
Oh yeah.
Can't get a signal.
Yeah, it doesn't get the signal. The head just starts winging all the way around. But
Yeah, I mean
when you're
Cody
on a
does the
lake,
same thing.
yeah, when you're on a lake, you can program that thing, and you just keep going right back over the same areas that you're fishing. So
That's awesome. I got a couple other things I need to talk about right quick. Next week on Catfish Weekly, Morgan Blake will be on the show with us talking about flatheads. The 29th, we've rescheduled Craig Shoemate to get on here. Craig was supposed to be on the show a couple weeks ago, and work made him come in, and like I told him, I said, we got. If you got a quality job, you need to take care of that. Catfish Weekly will be here, so we're going to get him on the 29th. The 7th of March, we are going to have a spouses show, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about how the spouses of these tournament anglers, their wives support them. We're going to have Joyce Muse is going to be on, Jamie Mathena is going to be on, and Carl Morris's wife, Amanda, is going to be on the show. We're going to try to get them all three in here at the same time, and if for some reason that doesn't work out, then we'll bring them in separately. But I know Jamie is Jason. Other than me, Jamie's probably Jason's biggest fan. I mean, I'm a pretty big Jason Athena fan. But Jamie supports him, and I know Joyce does. Larry, she has to all these years, and she goes to a lot of the events and stuff. And Carl Morris's wife Amanda does a lot of picture taking for guys like Aaron Wheatley and stuff at those big tournaments, and she's got to be behind him 100% as much as he goes. There's no way that if she wasn't, he'd be able to do that. So I think this is going to be a great show. And then the 14th of March, we're going to have a show called Getting Back to the Basics of the Roots of Catfishing, and we're going to have Jason Aycock on here. And fellas, I think this will be a really good show as we go back and talk about how we all got started and why we ended up fishing for catfish. Because, let's face it, we could all fish for bass or crappie or anything, but catfish is what we love to do. And I think that'll also be a really, really good show. So that's just a few. We're adding new stuff all the time. And the tournament stuff is going to be starting here really quick. So we'll be starting to get winners of tournaments and different things in here. So stay tuned. Anything else tonight, Chuck?
That's it for me. We got a few more weeks before the tournament starts down here, so that's when we'll start pushing all them things.
Yep, we'll start talking about tournaments here pretty quick. Doc, thank you so much again for coming on Catfish Weekly. I know your schedule's tight, but I'm pretty sure that we could have you on again here when it's convenient for you. We do this again.
All right,
Awesome.
I'm looking forward. I appreciate you guys having me. It was a blast. I'm sorry it went so long.
Oh, don't worry.
I can win. I can talk. I love to talk. And I like to talk when it's catfishing.
We had 50-some people watching the show live a while ago, just on our part, not including the YouTube feed and the Google feed and that. And we're still at 37, so we didn't lose too many really. So that's a pretty good good deal. So
we're gaining people in chat. We're not losing any. We're gaining. So.
We'll be half the night getting it loaded up on YouTube now.
Yeah, we're at an hour and a half. So.
Well, thank you so much again for being with us, and for Chuck Davis, I'm Lyle Stokes, and we'll see you next Monday night.